Welcome to the YVC Writing Center APA In-Text Citations presentation. This is a quick look at the most common in-text citation types, just to kind of get your feet wet in the American Psychological Association's way of doing things. If you're looking for more specific instruction, I definitely recommend heading to the APA style blog, not the website, but if you put in apastyle.apa.org, it'll take you to this page, which is handy because you've got your in-text citations, you've got your reference examples, mechanics, page formatting, all that good stuff at your fingertips, which is nice. You also can visit our webpage on the YVC website. And if you scroll down here, you will find in our resources section, you can click on this. And we've got downloadable handouts and also our videos. These are the old ones. The one you're watching now is the updated, but it is the latest 7th edition APA example. So, pretty cool. Okay, let's get started with this. We'll try to keep this quick for you since we know you're busy working on papers. So, Part 1, in-text citation formatting. Two options for in-text citations. Option 1, you can put your author in the narrative followed by a publication date in the parentheses. And here you can see Kreitzer, 2019, page 5 down here. Option 2, you can put your author and publication date in parentheses after the borrowed material. Here's the borrowed material. Looks like this isn't a quote, it's a paraphrase. And you've got Yanovsky 2018 right here. So with option 1, we'll read these for you real quick. This option is often used for direct quotes for which a parenthetical page number is also included after the quoted material. For option 2, this option is often used for a paraphrase or summary for which a page number is not required. And feel free to pause this video at any point if you want to look at these pages. I'm going to roll through them rather quickly so it doesn't get too long. Okay. Types of in-text citations, I almost said situations. Yeah, that's true too. That you may run into. You might have a source with no author. In that case, use the title of the work in the narrative or a shortened version of the work's title in parentheses. And here we see a portion from a borrowed work, and there is no author, so the student has put an abbreviated version of the title, television, which is the article or source. And the full version of this would be on the reference page at the end of your paper, 2014. Nice. So what do you do if you don't have a date? Well, you put the abbreviation ND where the date would be. APA likes dates because it's science, so let's say you're doing a paper on brain surgery. Your instructor doesn't want to see 1921 as your date, they want to see 2021 or a more recent date. So yes, pretty easy. ND means no date. It shows your reader you looked, you couldn't find a date. Make sure I didn't skip one. Yeah, I didn't. Okay, good. Okay, so no page number. When quoting a source with no page numbers, give a paragraph number with the abbreviation para, even if they're not numbered. If the work has section headings, then use the section heading along with the paragraph number. So here we have two authors, Hoppin and Tavares. 2010 was when this work was published, and the student has quoted them right here, potential for abuse. And there is no page number, so they've got weight loss drugs section. This is probably from a website, I'm assuming. And this section, potential for abuse, was found on paragraph 6. Pretty intuitive. Two authors, even easier. Every time you cite the work, name both authors, join their names with "and" in a narrative citation, and the ampersand symbol, "and," in a parenthetical. So here they are in the narrative, according to number 1, Southern, and number 2, Gordon. These two authors wrote the work, published in 2009. Quote, yada, yada, yada. And that was found on page 104. Awesome. Sometimes you'll run into excuse me, a case where you have 3 or more authors. In that case, if you are over 2 authors, you want to use the first author's name followed by et al., which is Latin for and others, I believe. Totally makes sense. McDuffie et al. Dot 2019 found orlistat to be most effective in the study. So that's pretty simple. What do you do if you have a group author? And this happens a lot with nursing papers, science papers, all kinds of stuff. It could be the CDC, like here. It could be Boeing. It could be any, usually website or whatever, where a group or corporation puts out a work and they are the author. For the first citation, give the full name of the group followed by a familiar acronym if available. After that, only use the acronym when referencing the group author. So here we see, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, and that's Center for Disease Control. And 2019 with the paraphrase. Here is a different wording, the paraphrase, and then in the parenthetical, because this is the first time and maybe your reader doesn't know what CDC is, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and then in brackets, CDC. So we're covered here and here, and here and here. Cool. Part 2, integrating borrowed material in APA. Science. 3 ways to cite borrowed material. Quotation. This is one we all use in papers. Record another person's exact words to preserve their accuracy or to relay especially vivid, well-phrased, or dramatic statements. So here we've got Beal and Hockman, 2017, comma, reported, comma, and then we've got the quote, right? Word for word, ellipsis, ellipsis. So this student has left out a portion of the quote here and a portion of the quote here. To find out about how to use ellipses, you can check out the APA website. And this was found on page 23. Note, always include a page number when quoting. Quoting is word for word. Paraphrasing isn't word for word. It's a little bit different. In this case, you're restating another person's ideas in your own words. A paraphrase is usually a sentence or two, is used for short portions of a work, and does not necessarily condense the original version the way a summary does. So here we see the same idea that was directly quoted here, but this student has put it in their own words, and then they've cited Beal and Hockman, and there's the ampersand because it's in the parenthetical, 2017. Note, if you paraphrase material, a page number is not required. However, you may include it if you are borrowing from a longer work, like a book, and want to ensure a reader can find the material in the original. Cool. And our final type, so we have quotations, paraphrases, summaries. When you do a summary, concisely restate the main facts or ideas of an entire work or section of a work, i.e. a book, chapter, or section of a paper. When writing a summary, be brief, be accurate, and use your own words and style to express the idea. So in this case, we can imagine this was like 2-3 pages of a work or more, and this student has distilled it all down into these 3 lines. Beal and Hockman, 2017. Note, when summarizing an entire book, article, or essay, page numbers are unnecessary. That's awesome. So, curveball, integrating long quotations. So, let's say you find something really good and you want to quote the whole thing in your paper because it's really written well. When you quote 40 or more words, that's the rule, from a work, set off the quotation by indenting it 1/2 inch from the left margin. Use the normal right margin. Long quotes should be introduced by an informative sentence followed by a colon. Here you see the students got in the article. Here's the title. Here are our authors, 2 of them. Here's the 2017 stated the following, and a colon, which launches us into the quote. You don't want to drop in a quote, right? You always want to introduce it. Quotation marks are unnecessary because of the indented format. Here's our indented format. Awesome. So even though this is a direct quote, we don't have quotes. Kind of weird, huh? But it's an APA rule, so cool. Also, your period is placed at the end of the sentence instead of after the parenthetical reference. So it goes here instead of out here. Of course, the Writing Center, we're always available day to day. You can check our webpage for when we're around, which is a lot. And we can help you with things like long quotes or even very simple things. Okay, so the example below isn't double-spaced, but your long quotes and your entire paper should be double-spaced per APA standards. Remember that. And the student has effectively unpacked their quote below. Don't leave us hanging. Tell us why it matters for your paragraph in your paper. This passage augments the findings of the Wengerberg study. Children of divorce often grow up faster. Nice. Okay, some of you are worried about plagiarism. Plagiarism occurs when you intentionally or unintentionally give the impression that words or ideas from another person are your own. The best way to avoid plagiarism, which is a serious academic offense, is to make sure that you, the student, the bright critical thinker, have something to say about your topic first, then follow the conventions of summarizing, paraphrasing, and quoting to give credit to the other people whose information you're sharing with readers. Great. This is very important. Discrepancies. You, the student, may discover discrepancies between 1. Style guides, 2. Online APA resources, 3. Suggestions from the Writing Center consultants, 4. And instructions about using APA from your instructor. When in doubt, golden rule, always check with your instructor. They're in control of your final grade, so check with them. References for this PowerPoint. The content of this section, or this presentation, was adapted with changes and additions from the following sources: American Psychological Association, 2019, Publication Manual of the American Psychological Association, and that's our physical style guide from the APA, 7th edition. Also, we use the called the Hacker Guide. Hacker and Summers are the authors. This came out in 2015. And it's entitled A Writer's Reference, the 8th edition, published by Bedford St. Martin's. The APA published this one, so we don't need to list them twice, but more on that in our references presentation. Good luck on your quotes, everybody, and I'll quickly read this non-discrimination notice. Yakima Valley College does not discriminate against any person on the basis of race, color, national origin, disability, sex, genetic information, or age in admission, treatment, or participation in its programs, services, or activities, or in employment. All inquiries regarding compliance should be directed to the Executive Director of Human Resource Services, YVC South 16th Avenue and Nob Hill Boulevard, Yakima, Washington 98902, or call 509-574-4670. All right. Happy APA In-Text citing, y'all.